Seems like it's always in flux, like every 3-4 months. Like it's always in flux, like
yeah. But it's no one knows.
There it is, equity. Got it.
Okay. We appear to be live. Looks like we're live. How's it going?
I'm doing great. How are you doing this weekend, Mr. Script Doctor?
This was like the first day, as I was telling you in the green room, this is like the first day I've had off in like a long while. We finished early yesterday on a set. I went home, I slept, maybe went to bed around like 8 o'clock, and woke up this morning at like 6:30, and then did some work, and then took a nap again, and then woke up a few hours ago, all set for today's show. Like I feel at one part of my body feels incredibly refreshed and high energy. Another part feels like, oh, you could go back to sleep and maybe have another 8 hours again, just because I've had so many days over the past few months where I'm sleeping maybe 6 hours, just because of the crazy schedules that I've been on. But this was a nice little respite day, and then I'm really happy to kind of close it out with a show this week, because last week was just utter chaos.
Yeah, I know you canceled sort of like you were trying to get out of there, and you said it might be late within like 2 hours of when we were going to go live, and then you ended up just canceling because you couldn't get out of there, huh?
No, I couldn't. We lost a location that we were supposed to be shooting on Monday, no Tuesday, on that Tuesday. So we had to scramble to get a scene that I just reworked to a location we did have, and we were supposed to. Once I turned that in, it was like, okay, we're all good. And then as soon as I'm about to leave the set, my producer comes up to me and says, oh, yeah, we actually rented out our extra day that we had. So we have to shoot this rewrite tonight. And I have to be on set for that. So it ended up being an overnight. We didn't get done until like really late Sunday morning. And yeah, so I wrote a little bit about it on my Patreon. Plus, I also tethered it into some cool writing advice on comedy, character perspective, roles of characters and villains, and how they interact with each other, what they say, how it connects to a writer stuff. It was a really fun article I was working on, basically during the downtime when I was on set, stuck on set, and not able to come home and do the show, and then sleep in my bed. So yeah, it was crazy. And what's I'm worried about is that there might be a handful of these types of situations coming up later on this year, just because work's coming in for writers like myself right now. People.
You mean hold on? You mean writers with talent and writers that aren't a minority? Is that what you're saying?
I would say that aren't ideologically driven is probably more effective.
I like the way I said it better, but okay, that's good. I'm glad to see you getting work. That's awesome, dude.
Yeah, no, it's pretty cool. I'm just it's hurting a little bit of my social life. That's the other part.
Let me ask you this though, because you were talking about being tired. Is this the good tired? You know, the tired where after you've worked your butt off all day and you get home and you're like, yeah, you're exhausted, but man, it feels good because you were part of something awesome. You know, is it that kind of tired, or is it the FML kind of tired?
No, it's more of the former. Like I will say this, some of the stuff I'm working on, it's okay. I'm just trying to make it better at the behest of the people involved, who everybody has kind of been realigning how to sort of hit that broad audience spectrum without causing controversy either inside the show or with potential audience outside. It's really just kind of walking the line where it's like, oh, this is the idea you have. Well, let's make sure that the idea comes across more as the idea and not as some sort of preachy moment. And that's what I've been doing for nearly 9 months on a whole bunch of shows. And
good.
Some of the times they take my advice and use the pages I write, and sometimes they're like, okay, that's good, and they just do it their own way. And it's like, all I can do is throw up my arms and be like, okay, man, like if you want to go,
you still got paid. Got paid, right?
I'm still getting paid, and the thing is, I'm not alone there. There's tons of actors that feel the same way. There's a lot of directors that are feeling the same way. I recently, here's a name that I have not heard in, God, it must have been over a decade, but someone was telling me that like former child actor who is like huge heartthrob in the, I guess, late 80s, early 90s, Matthew Lawrence, has basically been talking about how, like, yeah, the industry is just not really into just really fun stories and the broad aspect of telling, morality tales, regardless of the spectrum, just the general idea of like, oh, this is a morality tale. Here's how it used to be done, and how they were doing up until a few years ago, and how there's kind of like this tug of war with a handful of producers now still wanting to hold on to what has gotten us to this point versus another set of producers that are like, no, we think the tried and true stuff that worked, prior to the 2020s and the 2010s was probably the best method to go, and we can evolve from there in a more positive direction versus what we had previously. And I'm just like, man, if it's making its way to actors that are no longer on the frontline tier, but the ones that do some work occasionally, more on the independent side, and kind of just navigating a new landscape of the industry, it's like, well, it's getting to them. It's going to be getting to all the other smaller people that think of what's being thrown in the trades is the direction to go, which is actually the opposite of the case. So I thought that was kind of remarkable, because I'm like, when's the last time you heard about Matthew Lawrence and the Lawrence brothers?
That's true. I'm like, I know that name. I looked him up while you're talking, but yeah, I definitely recognize him.
Yeah.
No, that's good, and it can't come soon enough. Let's be fair. Like, if Hollywood doesn't get their crap together, they've been in trouble since COVID, and they're going to be really in trouble. If they want to, especially if they want to bring actual shooting back to LA itself.
That's a whole nother bag of worms, right?
Conversation. Yeah. I mean, I've been keeping my finger on the pulse of a lot of that stuff, and podcasts and people that work there, and then of course on X, and it's interesting to see. And I'm just like, at this point, I don't want it to collapse because of everyone else, meaning everyone who makes all of these shows possible that you never see, right? Mm-hmm. Those are the people who I want to keep employed. But I would love to just completely flush out everybody from like probably mid-level up, and just get people in there that actually want to be there, people that actually love making movies, making shows, making art, right? Fill it with the people that want to be there, and fill it with the people that either have the talent already or who have the drive and a spark of talent that will eventually fan that flame into an amazing talent. I'm a firm believer that, took me a long time to finally figure this out, but I'm a firm believer that talent is something that has to be nurtured. Like, you can be born with certain things that help you in specific things, whether it's sports or writing or whatever.
Yeah.
But nothing replaces just doing it, just doing the work and getting there. And a big part of doing the work is having the passion, right? Like, there's sort of these steps that have to fall into place. And yeah, I want people that, this is my girlfriend trying to call from, she's in Vietnam right now. So I'm like torn, but I can't take this call. So she's going to have to, I'll text her. So anyway, I'm just like, yeah, we need that. We need to get back to those things. I was not in film, but in gaming, I have been playing some old games lately, just to kind of explore and be like, how does this feel? What's it like? Mm-hmm. And today, I fired up my Xbox One, but I was playing some old Xbox 360 games, and one of them, well, two of them was the Marvel Ultimate Alliance games. Do you remember those? The Ultimate Alliance 1 and 2?
Yeah, I remember.
And you could play 4-player. There was like top down, right? Mm-hmm. And oh my God, dude, it was so good. And I played like an hour and a half of Alliance 2, and I'm like, dude, there's more heart and more clever writing and more quips and more fun, like just more fun. Like, of course, Spider-Man's doing his quips and stuff. But the overall fun of it, with just watching the story unfold, with everything going on in Latveria and all that stuff, it was so good. And I'm like, okay, this you could tell it was written by people who loved the source material, and who were like, yeah, we just want you to have a good time. Just come on in here and let's play a game and have some fun and smash some stuff. And I'm just like, dude, it's so simple. And that's the thing. I think a lot of people have been driven back towards older stuff, because all 9 out of 10 times new stuff sucks, right? You're really waiting for something that's going to be good. Did I have any expectations? Like, great example, Night of the Seven Kingdoms was going to be great. No, I'm like, oh, great, another Game of Thrones movie or show. Here we go. And then I watched that first episode, and my eyebrow raised, and I'm like, that was pretty good. And then I watched the second one, and I'm like, are they going to shit the bed on the third one? And it was good. All the way through, it was fantastic. And I'm like, yeah, we just need to get back to, here's what I'll settle for. I'll settle for movie or books turned into film and shows, right? I'll take that for right now. Hollywood's always done that, but like, really, like, we've got Project Hail Mary coming soon, right?
Yep.
is a great example of that. And then, of course, the Night of the Seven Kingdoms was, was a novella by Martin. And if the thing is, I'm okay with that because books have a long marination time, right? Like those authors are thinking about those often for years, and they're rewriting and writing and rewriting and editing until we get this amazing story. And so if that's what Hollywood needs to lean on for a little bit, is like let's just do a lot of books. At least we're getting new content instead of remakes or sequels or prequels or anything else. Then I'm fine with that. But we need to get back to original shows, right? Original content, original film, and original stories, things that we're doing, and kind of like what we're talking about today. I saw probably two other films or stories within the story that we're going to review, or this film that we're going to review tonight. But I was okay with it because everything's going to borrow from everything else. It's just all in how you do it, right? And so anyway, I'm going to get my soapbox now, but I'm just like, it makes me happy to hear that you work inside the industry, and it's like, yeah, we're finally getting some of this freaking ice age is thawing a little bit, right? That's what it kind of feels like. We're getting some warmth, we're getting some joy, and hopefully it just continues to ramp up, because if Hollywood keeps doing what they've been doing, and expect a different result, it's not going to happen. A lot of people are going to suffer even more financially and, in other ways. So anyway, there you go.
Well, that's true with the case, because the change that you've seen, like Knights of the Seven Kingdoms, even some of the other more altruistic type of shows, they were all put into production about 3 years ago, because that's when the studios started to realize, oh yeah, this method, it's not working. Like, it's already changed. It just takes a long time for it to reach the general audience, because it takes many years to develop, workshop, and execute and release the stuff that you want. So Night of the Seven Kingdoms, I thought it had a rocky start at first, personally, but I did like how it ended. But it's one of the few examples of, well, how do you have a show with a male lead who technically is being torn down by all the other characters around them, but the teardown is not done out of malice. It's done out of the fact that they know this guy is not prepared for what the world is that he's entering into is. And they're basically giving him points of advice, saying, like, maybe your morality might have to be compromised a little bit if you want to survive out here. And he's the type of guy who's like, well, no, I don't really want to do that. and they're like, well, that's very noble of you, but the real world is not as idealistic as you are. And then you also have the funny part, like the character of Egg. The character of Egg does like point out a lot of things about how he's kind of Dunk is a little dumb and stupid, but he admires his honesty and his nobility, and that's why he's attached to him. But I mean, the way that they ended that last episode, where he's talking about how he's the ninth of the seventh kingdom, and Egg's like, well, no, there's 9, and he's like, no, there's not. Yeah. I'm going to hit you if you say that. He's like, no, and he counts him out, and he's like, yeah, like that's humiliating your main character, but it's done in a more endearing way versus other ways that has been done in the past, right? So that's kind of how
I think humiliating is a strong word, but I totally agree with your point. Like, yeah, it's humanizing him, right? It's not putting him on this pedestal. And I think that the main thing there is that it's organic. That's why it felt so much better, right? Versus,
well, the other part too is like there's earnest to it. Like, he earnestly thought there was only 7 kingdoms, and
right.
And maybe he earnestly thought that because he wasn't doing the math, or because someone else had told him that, and he just kind of stuck with it. Because again, he is described as not a very intelligent person, but he's got a noble heart, which means he knows the difference between right and wrong, and that's what works there. And some people exploit that, and some people nurture it, and that is how you. And if you can, and again, I always say this: concept is king, but execution is emperor. So if you execute that in the right way, where you're kind of making the main character the butt of the joke, but not at the expense of the character, but at the fact that, oh, they're learning something now. Like, this is a type of situation where they're now growing to the next level of whatever it is that whatever goal that you've got set for them. And that's
the pinch. It's called the pinch or the squeeze, right? And you can do a lot of little ones of those as you're growing your characters. Yeah,
exactly. It's not like a tearing down. And then on top of that, if you have a situation where maybe one character does try to dress down another character, well, how that character that's being dressed down reacts changes the entire dynamic. And this is what's known as a status game. And we'll be actually talking about this a little bit in the script, because the script has a lot of good examples of a status game. And a status game is basically where one character asserts a certain level of power or authority within a realm that another character doesn't quite have. And based on how that character responds to it is telling of the character. So if if you have one character that dresses down, your other character, and that character is being dressed down, smiles and scoffs at it, or smiles and says, okay, whatever, and then starts scoffing at it later because they know something that the other character doesn't. A little bit of dramatic irony. That's not the writer or the production staff saying, oh, this character that is maybe my main character, I don't like them, and I'm going to tear them down. They're saying, no. We're showing a character, an antagonist, tearing down our main character, and our main character is basically like has the fortitude to take it and not overreact as a result of it, and know something more about the situation that the antagonist doesn't know, and eventually it's going to come to a head, and then that main character is going to kind of be proven or vindicated that they're in a better position. And my favorite example of that is like the first season of John Reacher, right? Like he gets arrested. The head of the department, the black detective, does a little teardown of Reacher, and Reacher doesn't respond at all. And then,
Jack Reacher. I'm with you now. Sorry,
yeah, Jack Reacher. And then what happens? Well, over the course of that episode, or that season, they become really good friends.
Yes, I love that season.
And again, if you were to just see like maybe a couple of snippets of it or out of context, you might say, well, why is the black man tearing down the big white guys? Like, that must be some sort of ideological driven. It's like, no.
No. It's not always that. It could be that, but it's not always that.
It's not always that. You got to see it in its context, because these are the interplays that happens here, especially when you're doing like a two-hander, which again, this script that we're about to review this evening has a lot of two-hander aspects to it. So,
okay, wait. Two things. Number one, the demo or the example you gave with Egg and Dunk at the end about the Seven Kingdoms. What I liked about that is it was a very cool dynamic, or a what I want to say here. It was like it was layered. It was targeted at more than just Dunk. It was targeted at us,
right?
Because the show was literally called Night of the Seven Kingdoms, right? Mm-hmm. And then it's like as we ride off into the freaking sunset, it's like, oh, by the way, I'm going to school everyone watching the show too. There's 9. And how many people watch Game of Thrones for 8 seasons and never caught on? Because I was one of them, and I'm not an idiot. I'm like, I never really thought about 7 versus 9, but it's like, oh yeah, that makes sense, right? Only the diehards were like, there's 9. Of course that makes sense, right?
Well, I mean,
and I love that because it's not just tearing down Dunk. It's like, hey, by the way, maybe the things that you think are simple aren't as simple, and they're more complicated than you think they are. And I like that. It was sort of like this double meaning to that, like that little scene that they added. And I liked that. And the other thing that was when you're talking about like the dress down between two characters, right? Mm-hmm. And it's versus, and it's all a big chunk of it depends on how it's reacted to, right?
Right. Yeah.
Is that because it reveals what that character's like? Are they insecure? Are they too dumb to know they're being talked down to? They're just an idiot. Are we talking about like something on Stripes, like the movie Stripes? Like what are we doing here? And what I think that
because there's a couple of those scenes in Night of the Seven Kingdoms too. Yeah.
Oh, there's several of them. Several of them. But it really just it's you got to tear down. You got to tear down your character. You don't have to tear down your character, but you have to put pressure on them. And that fish out of water story with Dunk is so good, and it's so simple, and that's why it worked so well.
Yes,
because people could empathize with his character instantly. Who hasn't lost a loved one? Our first scene, he's burying someone, right? And then, when the Game of Thrones theme comes on, you're like, oh, here's that song. I know this song. I know what this means. And then, boom, nope, instantly cuts out, and he's taking a shit, and you're like, oh.
Yeah.
Wait, this is going to be a different right then. No, this is a different tone for this show. You don't know what to expect, so don't think that you do. That's what that message was, just with music. But hold on, let me finish my other thought before I forget. So the dressing down thing is the difference is that so I'd say the opposite, or the most wrong way to do that we see in so many bad writing by so many agenda-driven shows, is that they don't just do the dress down. They have that person react in a very abnormal, not in any way normal response, to the point that I've seen in video games, and I've seen even in the new I can't quote it, but the new Lanterns trailer did this.
Oh, okay.
Where your white character is basically says, yeah, I'm old, I'm stupid, I'm dumb, like literally says it. When they did the what are those video games where you plays the guy that was a writer? He's a writer, and it's all haunted and stuff, and you're like out in the woods, and you have a flashlight for a weapon and stuff. They did the third one in the series.
Yeah.
They did the third one in the series like last year, and I grabbed it and I returned it because in the first like sequence, the new black girl's coming in to replace the old white sheriff, and you're walking through the woods, and he literally says, "Well, you're smarter than me, and you can figure this out. I'm just not that good at this stuff." Like, he literally says it, and I'm like, "Holy shit, dude!" Like, no nuance, right? And it's so
And
clear.
it's not being said as a form of like making fun of them.
No,
Yeah.
100% serious. Like,
Yeah. See,
I'm
that's
like
that's a
literally has to,
problem.
like so on the nose. Like they might as well driven to my house and like hit me in the nose with a sledgehammer, and then like spray painted on my office wall. White people suck, right? Like it was that bad, and I'm just like, what in the hell, dude? And we get those with a lot. We get that with a lot of those shows. I mean, there's a lot of moments like that in The Acolyte. There was some of that
Well,
with Book of
here's a
Boba Fett.
distinction from that, right? So
Yeah.
in shows like, say, The Acolyte or Ahsoka or anything on Disney, it's the main character that's usually dressing down, the other person, right?
Oh, Boba Fett got dressed down all the time in his show. I don't know what you're talking about.
Well, he was getting more from, what was it, Ming-Na Wen was trying to teach him what he has to do in his position for Book of Boba Fett as a domo, if I'm not mistaken. Again, I've only seen the show one way through. But usually in the context that you're saying is that your main character is the one that dresses down the other person, whether it's the straight white guy or what have you, whatever is going on. But in the situations where it's sort of like the day player or the guest star or the antagonist dressing down the main character, that is indicative of the writer saying, I'm not humiliating my main character, I'm setting up the antagonist to fail. Because the story is always going to be about the main character overcoming the obstacle. And it's just like, when you're doing a story of like, the small town business person, and then the big corporation comes in and the big corporation dresses down the small town guy who's got his own little shop and saying, you can't defeat us in our big multinational corporation. Like, it's not the writer saying, I think the main character is an idiot or humiliated. It's like, no, I'm making my bad guy the bad guy to put pressure on the main character to make them step up and prove that they have some value. Like, that's what's
totally
called a setup, and it's really important that as whether it's in whether you're writing it or whether you're watching it on television or on film, that you understand the dynamic of relationships, because relationships are what are the methods by which a writer establishes the context and the morality of whatever story that they're doing. And in this script that we're going to be reviewing shortly, even though this has been a pretty long preamble but a fun one, we're going to see that
it's a prelude.
We are going to see a couple of examples of where that happens, and again, if it was ideologically driven, the roles would be flipped. It would be the main character dressing down the big corporate thing and saying that they have the moral high ground. But that is antithetical to the stories, because all the stories that you kind of watch are usually your main character is put into an underdog position of some sort. And even when it comes to like superheroes, in some cases, they have this great history behind them. They've established that they're a hero, but they're facing a challenge that puts them on the defensive by the antagonist that they'll be facing. And even though we know very well that they're capable, they have the skills, there's no drama if they're able to just blow through it easily. Like, we want to see the difficulty. We want to see the cleverness and the ingenuity of the antagonist that's trying to circumvent the superhero or the main character's powers or morals or family or infrastructure, whatever they have. They're trying to do everything they can to exploit and weaken their antagonist, the protagonist, so the antagonist can win. And if you don't have that in your story, what's the point in telling your story? It's just
Well, and back to Dunk, like Sir Dunk, like, dude, talk about beating the crap out of your protagonist, man. Holy crap!
Not just physically, but just emotionally as well.
Every way. Yeah, every way. Yeah, I mean,
and it's his perseverance and his moral code that's keeping him going, even when he's at that point where he's like, I'm ready to turn away. And he's got a handful of small people that are like, you know what? You're a better man than I am, like, morally, and I don't want you to fail. Even though I can never do what you do, I could easily walk away, turn away to betray my brother or what have you. You don't. Yeah. So I'm going to, even though I can't live up to that, I'm going to try and do what I can to encourage you to maintain and live up to that. And that's a fun aspect too.
Yeah, and it's just, and it works because it's the same thing in real life. You meet someone who has the traits that you aspire to, and you instantly look up to them and want to learn from them. Okay. And that's what a good protagonist will do. But of course, you have to have enough conflict to keep it interesting, and you also can't make them so powerful that it's just pointless, right? It's just boring. And it goes back to the Superman example, right? It's really hard to write a good Superman story because he's so powerful, right? But good writers know how to do that. They know how to find the interesting story.
It's not the powerful part that makes him a boring character. It's the fact that this character has so much power, and yet he never abuses it. And that's what makes him interesting, right?
But to a lot of people, they think that's what makes him boring. He's just a Boy Scout. That's boring, right? But we know, a good writer knows, no. Anyway, so yeah, I mean, I could talk about this all night, but it's your show. What do you want to do, Script?
Well, we're going to go into the script because even the stuff we talked about rolls into the script that we're doing. So let's do this. Welcome to Scripts on Saturdays, the only screenplay review show on the interwebs, discussing scripts both professional and amateur, circulating around Hollywood, giving you, the TV and movie-going audience, behind the scenes and inside track on what writers are pushing and what producers are buying. I am your host, the Script Doctor, and joining me this week is TJ Mack of Mac Media. So happy to have you here, especially because you're just as talkative as I am, so it's going to make for a very interesting show today.
Yep, and I don't even drink coffee. This is all natural.
All right. So this week's script, this one is, I think it's our first script from 2025 Blacklist. It's titled Equity. It's written by Ward Kamel, and this script finished number 2 on the Blacklist with 35 votes, so it's got some momentum. Before we get into
I didn't know it was that high, man. That's great.
Before we get into the logline and the synopsis, I'll just point out that so Ward Kamel, he's been writing a bunch of short films and done some minor production as well as a director for a few years now. This script is kind of in development with a production company in New York called Killer Films. So someone has already agreed to essentially greenlight this, but it's still in a working part, which means that whatever issues we find in the script, they probably have found it as well, or maybe they found different issues, and they're kind of shaping it up to try and make it into a more accessible story.
Wait, say that again. So how do you know it's probably already been greenlit?
Because I did some research into the script, and I was able to confirm that a production company that's primarily a distributor named Killer Films. They have a logo of a bunny its body is like a target, and it's a bunny. And they've made around 200 movies over the last decade or so, or produced and distributed 200 films.
Okay, cool.
So they've attached themselves to this for the time being. We'll see how long that holds out. I'm crossing my fingers it does, because I like it when writers are able to get their projects made, even if I don't like the script. But in this case here, we'll have a different conversation on that. But yeah, so he's also a Nickel Fellow. So we have what's called the Nickel Fellowship. This is done by the Academy of Arts and Motion Pictures, where you write in a screenplay, goes through their program, and it comes with a huge cash prize. They try to be objective, but it is still a relatively biased contest of sorts. It has unfortunately elevated some of the worst writers we've ever had in Hollywood. One of which being
examples.
Dave Callahan, the guy who did he was the one who wrote Wonder Woman 84.
Oh my God! Ugh.
He wrote the first Mortal Kombat. That the sequel is coming up soon, but the sequel is written by a completely different team.
Wait, he wrote the first one from 1991. That one?
No, from 2020.
Oh, okay. Yeah, not that.
Yeah, not a great one.
I thought the sequel, the new one coming out with the new trailer, was a sequel to the 1990s one. Am I wrong?
You're wrong.
It's
yes.
not a sequel to that? Can I have my own headcanon and say it comes from that one?
Sure.
It's just been recast. That's what I'm going to do in my headcanon. Because I heard about the one that came out 4 or 5 years ago, and I heard it was so bad. I didn't even watch it. I did watch. Did you watch the little YouTube? I don't know if it was official or not, but there was a YouTube short spinoff of it was 10 minutes long or 15-minute long short with Scorpion and, was it Scorpio? Can't remember their name. Scorpio and the ice one, the ice
Sub-Zero.
guy.
Yeah.
Yeah, those two together fighting. Did you see that? It was
no.
It was a short film. Okay, I'll find it for you. You got to watch it. It was actually pretty good.
No, but this is a guy who he also wrote Zombieland Double Tap that nobody saw. He also did Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings. He did the screenplay and he did the story, and that broke my heart because I was not the biggest fan of Shang-Chi, but whenever I saw him pop up in a comic book, I thought it was really cool that he's just this Bruce Lee type of dude with kung fu. So yeah, he's one of the guys that kind of made an impact. Now, fortunately, his initial slate has been cut down by like 75%. He's still associated with like Beyond the Spider-Verse, the Spider-Man stuff. He's apparently got some type of credit when it comes to Masters of the Universe, but that is the development credit, which means that he was one of the early writers who did the initial first draft and pitch, and then they took that and they just kind of like reworked it over and over and over and over and over again. So he's going to have his name on that, but you know, if you followed that along the production history, you'll probably know that he's got very little to do with the final product. So he's lucky there. I think Adam Nee and Chris Butler have rewritten his work over for the Masters of the Universe film. Yeah, because I've heard some really good things about it so far. So I'm pretty curious about Masters of the Universe. I liked He-Man growing up, even though it was running in syndication when I was a kid, because it was no new episodes came out. So I had no idea that was the case. But yeah, so this guy here, this writer, he got a Ward Kamel got the Nickel Fellowship, and he's kind of been building up his resume with that. So yeah, it's we're gonna see how well his writing is here with this story, Equity. So let's get down to it. Logline for Equity, excuse me, goes as follows. After an ambitious pharma founder sells a portion of himself to a charismatic billionaire magnate, his world spirals into high-stakes battle to buy back control of his company, his future, and his life. DJ, share us the synopsis for Equity.
A driven pharma CEO, desperate to save his groundbreaking startup from financial ruin, enters a high-stakes partnership with a charismatic billionaire investor. As the deal promises revolutionary medical advances, hidden agendas emerge, threatening his control, reputation, and even his very life. Will the alliance unlock miracles or unleash a nightmare?
Okay. So, we have a script about pharmaceutical companies and investors, and it's got a length to it. This is planned to be like a 2-hour drama, so because it's 117 pages, give or take.
Yeah, it was long. But it didn't feel that long. It did not feel that long, sorry. It's long, but it didn't feel that bad.
Well, some parts felt long, some parts felt really quick. It did kind of vacillate between the two.
Yeah.
But we opened the script basically with like a version of the Shark Tank, that whole investor thing.
Which I thought was a great open. I really like this open.
Cool. So yeah, like share with us what you dug about the open.
So what I know from Shark Tank, I've learned from YouTube, right? I never watched the show live. I've never done that, but I was aware of it. It was out there, and then I've seen a lot of great clips of people pitching on, in the Shark Tank.
Yeah.
And I can't remember which came first. I'm guessing the version of it in the UK came first, and then America borrowed it and did their own version. Because I know there's a version of it in the UK as well.
There's a UK version, there's a Canadian version, and then there's an American version.
Oh my goodness.
And Kevin O'Leary is in both American and Canadian versions.
Okay. So yeah, instantly, most people are aware of it. So it pulls you right in. You instantly go, okay, I know what's going on. We've got a person pitching a product. They're trying to get some cash flow in order to grow their business. And in return, these sharks are going to, buy into the company they have different ways, right? Different packages, if you will, of ways that they want to buy into the company, whether they're going to own a percentage of it forever, or they're going to give them a cash infusion and then own a percentage until they're paid back with interest. Like there's different ways that they do these plans, right?
But the most common one is they're trying to get 51% of the company.
Yeah. So our main character's name is it Adele? I'm trying to remember. I read this a week and a half
ago. It's Adele Rama. He is Arabic.
Yeah.
Which almost doesn't come into a factor with his character for the rest of the script.
You say that again? Sorry, I was talking over you.
It does. Like the fact that he's Arabic really doesn't come into any type of play significantly throughout the script, other than a little bit of a connection of the fact that he's a child of immigrants, just like an eventual character who's going to invest in him is also a child of immigrants.
Yes, yes, and honestly, I think that's the only thing, and that's good enough. It's good enough to show why it explains why he does what he does as he invests in this in Adele. So I was okay with that, right? It shouldn't really matter anyway, but yeah, I like this open. It grabs me. I just picture that brightly well lit, studio. He's up there. He's nervous, and we don't know exactly what's going on. We're like, because we're already interested, because we're like, well, what's the product? He's here, right? And that's what makes those clips on YouTube even interesting. You're like, okay, because you see some really cool stuff people invent, right? Really cool things sometimes.
And you also see
so,
some really sad financial decisions that these cool people have made that have got them to the Shark Tank position.
which we're about to see one made here by our protagonist, Mr. Adele here.
Yes.
And so without reading page by page, basically the synopsis here is he's nervous. He kind of has a plan. We will find out soon that he really needs this cash infusion, correct? He really needs this for his company. And so he's trying not to come off too desperate. But let's talk about the product first. So what's cool and unique about his product is it's a plant-based, I don't remember what plant it is. It's a plant-based way of delivering almost anything that you could eat, right? Anything edible.
Any type of basically medicated pill.
Medication, right. Yeah. So and it's not just like as far as how you actually consume the product, but it's also how you ship the product. And so it makes for a very stable product that you could put, say, immunizations in or anything that's just medically that's going to benefit people. That's really where the money's going to be, right? If these can stay on the shelf for 3 years because it's not going to go bad if it gets too cold or too hot, then there's a lot of money to be made here, right?
Yeah, it's basically replacing the petroleum aspect of a lot of pills that also result in the medication inside expiring within like 8 months. This one would replace that, and the medication would have a longer shelf life as a result.
Right. And so I think, if I remember right, we had 4 sharks, right? I think there's 4 of them.
Yes,
and 3
I think so,
pass. Do you want to get into the details
Mike, Louise, Jeff,
of
and
each
Cecilia.
pass? Or?
Yeah,
how much do you want to jump into this? I mean, they each end up passing for their own reasons. And ultimately, we get to our main antagonist of the story. And what's his name, Script?
His name is Michael Mukattar, and he's kind of described as like Kevin O'Leary meets Elon Musk of sorts. And he makes this really interesting offer because he says, I see something in Adele that I see in myself, and I believe in the product, but I'm not going to invest in the product. I want to invest in you specifically, and I want to own a percentage of you, like who you are. And it's a very abstract request. And what's funny is that Adele is kind of tempted by this because what he's essentially being told is like, your company remains still independent, and I don't have an ownership in it. I just have an ownership in you, and there will be certain rules applied to that. But I'm going to give you like, $500,000 to $1 million for like, I think it's what 10%.
10%.
Yeah, 10% of who he is. Which is it's an interesting offer because it's also a head scratcher, because what does it mean? What does it mean to sell 10% of yourself? Like, is it 10% of your body fat? Is it like,
is it a foot?
Is it a limb, an appendage of sorts? Like, what is it exactly? And that's the question that is traveling throughout the pages of this script.
I just thought of something really funny. Like, basically his product is just add water. It's just add water if you think about it, because it's that gel, right? And it's all about just adding water.
Yeah.
So I think that's kind of funny. It's like, it goes to show that you can take what sounds like a dumb cliche saying and actually turn it into something that's sellable on screen. Because I never thought that this was a cheesy product. I thought this is actually pretty cool if it can do what it says it can do.
Because it uses that that flour based thing in boba tea, like for the balls that are in it. And it's like, you can, because the way it's done, it has a very long shelf life, and you can just package medication inside of that, and it's liquid form still, and it would be fine. And then on top of that, because it's a soft thing, it's a lot easier for kids to digest. So a tuberculosis vaccine or tuberculosis medication, which is swallowable, it's really hard for small kids to swallow a big pill like that. You kind of have to break it up into multiple things and then give it to them that way, which is not always as effective because, what if you misplace one or whatever, you don't get a full dose. But in this case, you can just put it into one, the kid can chew it, eat it, and it does its job, right?
And you're good. Yeah, you're just and then just take a swig of water. And they were, I think, yeah, okay. So I'm flipping through. So I remember that the catch was where he lost some of the sharks was that they've only been doing direct to consumer. They're not in the medical field yet,
and they can't do any actual pharmaceuticals, just over the counter stuff.
Yes, so it's all supplement based instead because
Yes.
you don't need all the licensing and all of the FDA approval and all that stuff for that.
Right.
So anyway, so we get through the sharks or the pythons as they're called, right?
Yeah, they're called the pythons here. Yeah, but the python pit, right? So
Yeah, this is the python pit, and they're the pythons. We need to stick with the script instead of calling them sharks, but that's where it's coming from.
Right.
And so then we get back to Mike. Like let's just jump into what happens with him and Mike. So we see this really interesting back and forth with the bidding, right? It's this tense thing. It's like a bidding war. Like how much are you willing to do this? And it shows that Adele, this is kind of a peek behind the curtain how desperate Adele is, because Mike has this pitch of, yeah, I'm going to invest in you, not your company. I'm going to give you this cash infusion, and then I'm investing in you. And he's like, and Adele's like, what does that mean? And he goes, I don't know. We'll figure it out. We'll figure it out. Well, whenever you're doing business and someone says, let's figure it out, or they're not willing to just put pen to paper and sign something, you've got an effing problem, people. Okay. Just know that in today's world. So especially when you're in a place called the Python Pit, but this is our movie, this is our setup, and we like this as a viewer, right? We're like, oh yeah, what's it gonna do? What's this gonna, what's gonna happen? And now that you said this is in production, I'm actually kind of more excited because I'm like, yeah, I could see this being done. But they need to do it well. They need to not drag stuff out because you're right. Now that I'm thinking about it, there are a few scenes that I felt were kind of like unnecessary or long, but we'll get to that. So what happens with him? Where does this end? Where do they end up landing between Adele and Mike? What's the deal? Do you remember?
So on the show itself, they end up landing, like one of the things that Adele says is like he wants, because Mike pitches 8% and a 6-month buyback clause, meaning he can buy his investment back. And Adele's like, well, give me $500,000 for 8% in 24 months. He's like, I'll give you $400 for 12. That's the final offer. Boom. Adele says the deal. And then Mike whispers to him, let's make you filthy rich. And then, of course, we're into the, after the production. And essentially, like Adele's being requested, hey, you're going to be talking with this, with Mike pretty soon. So let's get that set up to like sign the contract and get the deal going. And at the same time, he's talking with his fiancée Cecilia, who's asking like, how's it going? And he's like, well, we got a deal. And then Adele's revealing how much they need this cash. And what's very cool is we don't get the final details as to why they need the cash exactly. But as you follow Adele throughout the script, he before he even gets, this injection of cash, we find out that he's got this really expensive apartment in the city. He uses Uber all the time. Like, he's not fiscally responsible with his own personal expenses. He's literally using the company's money to live a lavish lifestyle. And it's
I didn't really pick up on that the first time, but yeah,
but it's very in the background, right? And I know many business owners who start out that do this. They get a huge amount of cash and profit, and they're like, oh, great. Instead of investing into the company, I'm going to buy a house, I'm going to buy a car, I'm going to buy other property, and it's going to be like, quote unquote, equity for themselves that they hope to funnel back into the company, but it never goes. And whenever I would watch like a Shark Tank or some variation of, and I see this guy who says, yeah, we got this business and we made over $2 million a year and we're looking for more money. It's like, you made $2 million a year. What's your operating cost? Because if you made that as revenue and your operating cost is, let's say, 60% of that, then you're in a very stable position to grow organically and become bigger. But if you need money at a $2 million revenue stream and your expenses are not close to $2 million, then you got to reevaluate, and your expenses are close to $2 million, you have to reevaluate your expenses. Because a lot of people that don't have your business, that have $2 million, can do way more with that than what you're doing. And if you find yourself on the Shark Tank or a variation thereof with that model, you have screwed up. And this is what Adele's story is like somewhere he has screwed up. And we find out it's kind of on his own expenses. Like even the ring that he gave Cecilia for their engagement, it's a pretty expensive ring.
You're right. I didn't really pick up too much on that, but I can totally see that now. The other thing, we brushed right past it, but after he left the studio, he was backstage,
right?
And he met another entrepreneur that also got a deal,
right?
And she asked him. Now this line means a lot more now, having read the script. And she says, hey, what happened or whatever? And he says, hold on, it's right here. I just had it. He says, "Yeah, I don't know. It's a little weird. Actually, my deal is a little weird. Mike, he like invested in me, not the company. Like literally invested in me. I'm not sure how it'll work, but he wants to own stock in me." And then this entrepreneur, she says, "That's amazing. Having Mike Mukhtar personally invested in you, I'd cut off my right arm for that."
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, that's good writing because, yeah, because what is 10% or what is, and we're
Yeah.
going to see. We're going to see maybe it gets worse, maybe it gets better, but more than likely for our protagonist, it's going to get worse before it gets better. So what's 10% of your body? What's 10% of you? What does that even mean? And so we're going to find out that Mike is going to basically, this Mr. Clever billionaire guy has now found a way to exploit humans even more. And he gets to use our protagonist, Adele, is going to be a guinea pig in this new system of investing in human beings. And there's actually a line later on we'll get to that I actually kind of was like, I nodded at. I'm like, yeah, that's actually a good point coming from the bad guy, coming from our antagonist, and I agreed with him. And I'm like, it's actually a good point.
Well, that's what makes antagonists really great is that they have a good point, and the way that they follow it through is nefarious. Because if they have a good point and they follow it through it in a more altruistic way, you're like, oh, good, they're a hero. But they follow it through in a nefarious way, then they're the villain. And that's where you have fun with ideas, because you can take bad ideas or good ideas and you can find a cool way to make them work out to the agenda of the character in question, whether it's a heroic agenda or a villainous agenda. That's where you get your drama.
Great example right off the top of my head is Thanos and the snap, right? Everybody's starving. There's not enough stuff. Let's just kill half of everybody. Boom.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I saw where you're going there at the beginning, and I didn't like how it ended.
Exactly. And don't like how it ended. And it's like, well, wait a minute.
Yeah.
If you have all this power to remove people, surely you have all this power to increase the resources or make what is required of people that they need less so that they can sustain or thrive, right? So
do you know what percentage of the universe is not like, what would they say on Star Trek? Is it Class D planets are the ones you can live
Class
on?
M, yeah.
Like Class M, thank you. I'm like, it's just terraform. There's so many planets. Like there's 98% of the galaxy you can't live on. Couldn't have Thanos just made a snap and been like, look, here's all these planets people can live on now. You know what I mean?
Just terraform them all to being thriving planets.
Yeah, exactly. There's plenty of food. There's plenty of stuff. It's just use that freaking Infinity Gauntlet to do something good instead of bad. But then he would have been bad. So
yes.
All right. So yeah, I like Mike as a character. I liked him all the way through. There was one part where I was kind of like the mask slipped, and I don't mean like we saw behind the mask. I just mean like his character. He kind of felt like he said some stuff out of character. But but I really do. I do like this script. I'm a little surprised there's number 2. I would have guessed it was somewhere in the middle of the pack for the year. But hey, it's if this made it to number 2, I'm happy because this felt like a pretty original script. Like there's not one film that I'm like, this is just like that. I mean, there's little pieces in here, but like I said earlier in our little prologue of the show, you're going to get that in any script. Like where we're at now in society with entertainment, nobody can come up with something that's going to be 100% original. There's too much content out there. You're going to borrow.
You're going to recognize a lot of familiarity,
from
but
other things.
You're going to recognize a lot of familiarity. It's just how you as a writer distinguish yourself and your take on the story that comes through. And the truth of the matter is the 90-10 rule of entertainment and basically of everything is still stands. The difference is being like, well, how much of that 100% is there? Like up until the turn of the century before streaming, there was, say, maybe 250, 300,000 films, and maybe maybe a third of that number was also like television shows. A lot of content.
You're talking English in English?
In English,
in
like
the Western world?
In the Western world. Like, so we're talking like Europe, England, English-speaking countries, even with a few like, other foreign non-English-speaking countries too, to a degree. You have a ton of content that even an individual could not live long enough to entirely consume. But the other part too is it was a lot easier to filter out what is good versus what is bad because the good stuff was a lot faster. It was able to travel faster and dominated the main networks of broadcast. But when you got the internet involved, when you get streaming involved, well, that ratio stays the same, except instead of it being like up to 1 million new film and television shows, it's like 6 million. So now you have this massive amount. And when you're looking at 90% of 6 million, that's bad, is way more way more exposed than 90% of a million that is bad. You feel like, oh man, the stuff that's actually really good is so much smaller in comparison, but the ratio is the exact same. And it's the oversaturation. It's also the access of things. And there's no filter when it comes to the internet. It's a true chaotic democracy of sort, because even the bad stuff can get just as much of attention as the good stuff. And now you, as an audience member, are like, man, it feels like everything's bad. And it's like, well, the way that a lot of algorithms work is that content that is poor and elicits a certain reaction gets more traction than content that's great, that exerts a positive reaction. Because during the network days, cable and network broadcast, you wanted a hit show because you wanted people talking about how great it is. And we had that for a while, but the internet doesn't work that way. The internet's like, no, we got to talk about how bad something is.
And the way you get paid on the internet doesn't work the same way either. Like, the whole game has changed since then. So
yes,
yeah, you get eyes on it. Whether it's good or bad, you get paid, right? And bad often will get more eyes than good. So
because people like the drama, people like the Schadenfreude of things, and that was something that the old system prevented, because they're like, okay, something sucks, great, make fun of it for a bit, let's get it off the air, let's put something new on, and hopefully make it a hit. Because if you think about, like, from the shows from the 50s all the way to the late 90s, you had I Love Lucy, people loved. You had the Honeymooners, people loved. You had Gunsmoke. You had Green Acres. You had Star Trek for a short period, but still well beloved. You had Barney Miller. You had All in the Family. You had MASH.
Charlie's Angels.
You had Charlie's Angels. You had Rockford
There's
Files.
Tons of great ones.
All of these shows people loved to talk about. And
Murder, She Wrote.
Murder, She Wrote. Matlock.
That show.
Andy Griffith Show. Like
almost every actor ever that was born would have been able to even get on that show. I don't care if they're 8 years old. They at one point they were at least one episode of Murder, She Wrote. I swear to God, dude, everybody was in Murder, She Wrote.
Golden Girls, like, again.
Oh yes,
Cosby Show, Seinfeld, Growing Pains, Family Ties,
Cheers.
Yeah,
all of those were
so
popular.
Remember, that was an infrastructure that said we are going to reward people that love a show and genuinely love a show, not artificially love a show, but genuinely love a show, because that's how we make our money. And then the internet comes along, and it's like, well, we tried that, but it doesn't seem to get so much traction, because people now having a voice, the ones that have the most entertaining form of outrage, will get a lot more attention, because that becomes more entertaining than the poor subject that they're mocking, and there's a lot of money in that. And it worked. It didn't really work financially on message boards, but it got a lot of traction. And then YouTube came about, and YouTube didn't really have any sort of algorithms for that at the time. It wasn't until Google purchased it that whole shift. That was the Overton window, the watershed moment, where all shifted into, here's how you go. And then
I remember old YouTube, dude. I remember watching stuff at work when I worked at Circuit City. I remember watching old YouTube videos, dude. And then we started rewarding, and now you get paid. When we say rewarding, you get paid for bad behavior, because it's where the views are.
You can also get paid for good behavior, but like it's a little bit of a faster. Pathway.
The same thing happened in journalism, though. Like you're talking like newspapers and stuff. The same thing is, it's like it went from like you should have a neutral voice when you're reporting a story to by the early, I'd say mid 2000s is when it really started to really shift over.
But newspapers and cable news started to get more sensationalized. Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. It turned into we get more views. We're going to make more money off of advertising because we're getting more views. If you're not neutral, you need to have an opinion. And so,
a lot of those advertising companies were pharmaceuticals, which tethers us right back to this script.
Back to Mike and Adele.
Right. Which again, that's one thing that you have to be kind of aware of, is that where's the method of communication that points out, like, these are the awesome things that you guys should be watching or should be learning about or should be seeing, because the rage stuff in the early days of YouTube, that was done as comedy and satire. And then now there's some pockets that makes it legitimate. There's some other pockets that still do it satire. There's some other pockets that have genuine criticism where they show real concern for franchises that they love or new shows that come out. And then there's the ones that copy that that don't really have much of a great voice. And then there's the ones that try to put in some counterculture stuff. And then there's the ones that are just completely obtuse and they're just saying everything is great. So you have this huge mix. And when you're getting all those different signals kind of coming into the same person, you get you can get pretty confused if you try to take all of that in, or eventually you just kind of shut out certain things and you look either for something that's more legitimate, more authentic to your opinions or to your tastes, or you find something in another area that's more affirmation to your taste. So it's not your opinion, but it makes you feel good and you feel like you're not going alone anymore or crazy amongst your friends.
Affirmation.
Like that's one of the things that I felt in Hollywood for a very short time, compared to my entire career, where it's like I'm in a room with a bunch of people where I feel like I'm the only one with ideas that are distinct and everybody else is kind of like the Borg. And I'm like, am I going crazy or is something off here? And then that's when I'd go back home to Canada, I'd talk to people and be like, nope, okay, they're crazy. I'm not crazy. It's just that little part here. And that just gets peppered all over. Like, so right now, the industry has been purging a lot of those people out. Like in the writers and the WGA, because I'm working so much, I know the reason I'm working so much is that the competition that would normally get my jobs aren't good. Like they weren't good, and they have not been working because the industry has changed and said, hey, we need to start making money off of this stuff. Ideologically driven stuff doesn't really work so well. And if the writer can't adapt and get out of the ideological driven stuff, they're not going to be hired. So that's why I'm able to get some work, because my ideologies are like, can I really tell a great story? That's the goal of what I have. And for a lot of writers,
that's the best ideology of the world right there.
Yeah.
Right there.
And that's the ideology that a lot of the writers that we're reviewing on this show tend to have. It's like they're trying to tell the best story. Sometimes they'll have some ideology other than that in there, but their still goal is trying to tell the best story. And
and stories have always done that. That's okay,
yes,
as long as it's organic and it's from the heart and it's sincere, because your viewers
and you strongman both arguments towards your morality play if you're going in that direction. The stronger the opposing argument is, the more dramatic it is when you overcome it, which is what we have kind of in this script here, because Mike has a really good argument, which is that some people, and the reason he's doing this program is that some people have great ideas or great means to do something amazing, but certain systems are put in place that prevent them from getting the opportunities that in any other society, in any other part of the world, or in any other time, or any other economy, they would be at the top of the food chain. And he's saying this program, this me being able to invest in you program, Adele, can help everyone around the world who needs that assistance. And it's basically saying, like, it's you yourself that the people are investing in. And your duty to them is basically saying, invest in me because I'm doing this. And as long as you stick to what you're doing, the people that invested you will feel rewarded as a result. And you will have money to, invest in your ability to achieve that goal. And the irony of this is that, excuse me, as a writer, as a director, as an actor, when you are pitching a script, or a story that you want to work on, you are pitching with the understanding that the person you're pitching to is not necessarily investing in the story itself, but they're investing in you to tell that story the best way you could. And that's how you're doing the pitch. And that's what this is allegorical to. It's allegorical to a person in creative industry who's going to studios and saying, hey, please invest in my thing. And they're all saying, well, yeah, I'll invest. I get points on the back end. I get points on the main box office, all that type of stuff. And this is my terms. And some of those deals can be really bad. And then this one guy says, yeah, I know what, I'm going to invest in you. And I'm going to give you the opportunity to completely own your work. And I'm also going to give you the opportunity that if that work ends up making a lot of money, you can buy back the investment I placed in you. So it's essentially like a different type of loan, where it's like a loan without interest, but it's got a heavy amount of collateral, which is ownership, partial ownership of who you are. And I'm like, that's a pretty cool idea. It's a very dangerous idea. I don't agree with it, but it's a really cool idea.
It's terrifyingly cool. That's exactly was my impression too. I'm like, yeah, this is a unique idea, but it's really just a spin on what's happening with us anyway, right? All of our data is being bought and sold. How many
without
times
us being able to make any money off of it, yeah.
And we to make no money off of it. It's the biggest bunch of crap ever. And so that's kind of Mike's. Well, later on, that's kind of his angle. He's like, well, you might as well be getting paid too, right?
Yep.
And I'm like, yeah, you should. I agree. I've been saying that for years. And so yeah, back to the script. So what we've got is he goes back to the office after, he gets a big high five and a hug from his girlfriend. He goes back to the office, and we
And this
see
is a
the
very
office.
elaborate office. Like, this is way too expensive
Yeah.
of an office to have for what they're doing.
Yeah, and we meet Hamilton for the first time. I can't remember. Is he the COO? He's
He's the chief
like the money
financial
guy,
officer.
right?
No, he's the financial officer. He's the chief financial
CFO.
officer. Yeah.
CFO. Okay. So we meet Hamilton. Hamilton, like they everyone in the audience is like, yeah, great, great. And he's like, I can't say anything until it airs, right? I've got this NDA. So everyone's like, well, and he's like, I can't say anything. And he goes back in his office. And then so as soon as the door closed, Hamilton's like, hey, what happened, right? And he's like, I can't tell you, but he kind of like lets it leak that, yeah, it was good. It wasn't bad. And
we got some
Hamilton's
cash type of
excited
thing, yeah.
because if anyone's feeling the most pressure, it's the CFO, right? Like he's
Yeah.
the one that knows what's happening with the money. And so we just kind of see these two for the first time together, and it's important because Hamilton's going to be someone that we keep revisiting throughout the script. And as after Hamilton leaves, we see Adele grab his computer and start Googling Mike
Yeah.
to get some info on Mike, because he's like, who? Because of course, who wouldn't, right? This is the dude. I'm going to be a guinea pig. I'm going to be the first person who's get invested personally in order to get money that I could then turn and put into my own company to make it succeed.
And the brilliance of this scene is
yeah.
that he's Googling Mike after the fact. Like, if you're going on a show where you're pitching to 4 people, you should be
That's
doing
true.
your research on every single one of them to figure out how the heck can I present my idea to them that's most appealing to their mindset and the type of things that they've invested before. Adele,
Yeah.
because we see this scene, and this is the nuance of the script that I appreciated, because we see this scene coming after the fact, it basically means that Adele was so focused on just the pitch itself, he wasn't focused on who he was pitching to. And that's a big problem, especially
That's
if
a
you're
rookie
running
move,
a company.
actually. Yeah. That's true. That is very true.
All sorts of great learning advice
yeah.
if you're a screenwriter wanting to pitch to studio heads or executives. Learn who you're pitching to.
Yeah, you go in there and make some offhand Jewish joke or something. Might not go well for you.
Or an offhand Catholic, any type of joke, really.
Yeah. So I'm just trying to read ahead here.
So we kind of like
his dad.
Yeah,
his
he's
dad.
talking
He
to his
calls
dad and mom and about this, and they're really proud of him. But they're also making fun. It's like, do you need me to send you money? You know?
Well, it seems like his dad is old school. His dad's basically like doesn't like that he was on the show at all. He's like,
Yeah.
why do you need to go beg for money, right? Like he's like, what are you doing? And he's like, Dad, this is how it works. And his dad's like, no, not if you do it right. This is bullcrap. You shouldn't have to go on your knees and put your hand out like some sort of beggar.
Yeah, like I'm in
And-
total agreement with his father. I'm like, you are screwing up your business if you have to beg for money.
Yeah, because it sounds like he's got one hell of a product.
Yeah.
But I also know that backers can be good, especially at key moments of the business to really launch. Right, you need that funding to get your production line set up and your distribution set up and stuff. So
in some cases that's the case, but usually what you're looking at is you're trying to get a backer to help network you so that you have the means to expand. Like, and that's a different part. And usually you don't do so by trying to say you're selling the company. You usually do so by saying, here's a product I have. I'll make a deal with you with regards to this product where you actually have like a percentage of distribution or something in exchange for networking me with the expansion or with the ability to meet the right people or get the right authorization to expand into a different area of the market that this product can apply to.
Right.
Because that's usually how. I mean, in pharmaceuticals, and I know a little bit about this because I have a number of family members in the health service industry in Canada and do negotiations and stuff, and they're all talking about like it's access that you're kind of negotiating for. And for Adele, the way that his model is working, because he's stuck on supplements and because he's making some great money, for whatever reason, there is some sort of wall preventing him from getting over into pharmaceuticals. And
well, the third part of that was that he also doesn't want to sell to like Pfizer or somebody, right?
Right,
He doesn't want
sell
to
to
just
the
take
bigger
a
ones.
paycheck.
Yeah.
Yes, because he really believes in his own product. He does not want that to happen. He wants to control it.
he wants to
And
control
so I did
it,
like
and he
that.
wants to keep it affordable for the world. That's the other part.
Yeah. That's the biggest key. Yes, because he knows that if Pfizer gets their hands on it, these things are going to be $800 a pill. So, yeah, and then at the end of that scene with his parents, we get the secretary interrupts through the buzzer, and his contract is already there. It's only been 24 hours.
Yeah, his contract is there. It's with his lawyer, Jen Wilson, and it's a dense, it's like a phone book of a contract. And what's
And Jen is like, holy shit. And then it's very clear that they did not just write this. Like, he's been working on this a long time.
like, yeah,
So
this is a passion project for Mike, who's probably been trying to find someone to sign this contract for maybe a decade.
yeah, which is another red flag that you get this huge contract and you're going to be the first. You're going to be the first person of the kind to do this. And so I like what happens next in the story because do we see our protagonist just greedily, nonchalantly sign this contract?
No, not really.
No, not at all. 'Cause
Not at all.
See, he waits, and then Mike reaches out and is like, "Hey, let's do dinner," right? And he goes out to dinner with Mike, and then we see what I did not expect, which is more negotiation. I give you more respect for our protagonist, right? I'm like, okay, Adele might not be perfect, but he's also not going to just be a pushover either. And we saw some of that in the Shark Tank at the Python Pit. Now we're seeing it at dinner. It's a different setting to be sitting across from this person in the lap of luxury, right? This super nice dinner, a nice restaurant.
With all sorts of amazing celebrities or political figures in there.
Yep. And he's got to sit there and hold. Not only does he hold the line, he moves it back, and he's like, "No, I want more money."
Yes.
And I don't remember where we landed on that. Let me get to that.
I think he managed to get $2 million.
So he bumped it from 800,000. Is that what he started at?
He bumped it from 400,000 to 2 million at 8% still.
And he has a 1-year buyback.
And he has a 1-year buyback. And what's clever about this, and this is what I thought was kind of clever, because Mike is playing Adele here, because the way that listen, the more money that you sell for the percentage that you have, the harder it's going to be for you to pay that back, especially if you need that much money in order to sustain your business. So basically, Mike is saying, I'm going to have 8% at 2 million. Yeah, it's a little more, but I know now he's never going to pay that back if he doesn't play his cards exactly right, which means I'm still going to own a part of him, which means that however that term is, he is going to be able to use that ownership of him to maybe get a little nudge in some other directions for Mike's actions and behaviors when it comes to any new venture or his existing ventures that he has, because he can say, well, listen, I own 8% of who you are, and I think that 8% comes with this much influence with regards to the choices that you have. And then on top of that, one of the stipulations of the contract is that so long as Mike doesn't do anything deliberately to depreciate his value, he has to kind of essentially obey what his investors require of him. And if his investors do something that causes the depreciation of his value, he is not responsible for that. And that's the trade-off.
I like the whole thing. Sorry if you said this. I just got another call. I put it on
okay.
Do Not Disturb. This never happens on the show. I'm sorry.
All right.
Did you mention the part that I remember very clearly was how Mike shows, or the lawyer I think brought this up. It's basically an inversion of the 20s or the 30s where they legislated for companies to be people, and that's how they can do like these tax write-offs and stuff.
Oh yeah, it was done about 20 years
inversion
ago.
of that.
Yeah. He's inversing that. Where a corporation can become a person, now a person can become essentially a corporation.
A corporation, yes. And I'm like, holy shit, that's terrifying. But that's pretty much what's happening anyway, without our consent, right? Like I remember when Apple finally like put in some protections between apps, right? Mm-hmm. Or between all apps. And now every time I install a new app, because I told you this backstage, I've been learning Japanese, so this last 4 weeks, I've been playing around with lots of apps, Japanese applications, see what I can learn better with and stuff, right? And every single one of them asks if I want to share my information from that app with the other apps on my device. It didn't do that for a freaking decade or more, dude. Yeah. So all of those, I did not know that when I downloaded, sure, if I download Facebook, they're going to be getting all my data and on Facebook. But I didn't know that my Amazon app was talking to my Facebook app about what I purchased. So now I'm going to get Facebook ads that match my Amazon purchases, right?
Yeah.
None of that was told to me. And I never gave permission for that. But I said for years because I worked at Verizon corporate for 3 years, and I saw back then that how big smartphones were getting. Like they just exploded. This is like when BlackBerries were awesome, and the iPhone had just came out its first year. Was that year that I was
2006, 2007-ish, yeah, something like that.
Yep, right in there. And I realized, I'm like, and then there was I think it was a TED Talk or something that Google came out and they said our goal is not to control the software of the world. That's kind of like Microsoft was doing that. They said their goal was to control the information of the world through search results. And I'm like, that is terrifying to think that if the whole world, and back then Google was like 30% market share, but they were growing really fast.
Yeah.
And I was like, because Yahoo was still pretty big back then. And I remember thinking, man, if you only had one search engine, yeah, if they wanted to just put their thumb on the scale, they could do whatever they wanted to. And now here we are, right? Like it's real.
Yep. Google is the
I've
internet now.
Yeah, and I've seen that happen. And so I'm looking at this going, you know what? If I can't stop this behemoth, this Pandora's box that's been opened, I might as well be getting effing paid. Because how much money are they making off of all my data? I should be the primary beneficiary of everything about me because I am me. So 80%, 70%, no less than 70% of all profit made off of me should go to me. And you guys can get the other 30%. I'm just thinking of like the ratio of like,
the 30% would be
like,
would pay for the infrastructure to network and then advertise. Yeah.
Yeah. Because I'm thinking of like Steam, right? Like, so games, if you want to put a video game on Steam, they take 30%. If you want to put it on the Apple Store, it's 30%. Right. Like that's a pretty standard thing. So you know what? Where's my 70%? Because I'm me. And you know what? If I have to sit through ads, then they better be apply to me, and I better be watching that ad going, yep, but hey, I'm getting some money back from this. Like whatever, dude. I don't want to go too much further down that. But but here's the thing. We're talking about it, and that means that this concept of the script is good. That is good, and it's pretty original. And it's got a new twist on something that we're all familiar with, which is capitalism run amok, right? Unbridled capitalism.
Crony capitalism, borderline on corporate capitalism, which is a parallel to state capitalism, which means that there's a chance you could have someone that is essentially a slave under your your corporation.
Yeah, it's just legalized slavery, which you could put to a lot of things already. That it's a pretty good description that's accurate for a lot of things. That are legalized in the Western world, right? Like the first one I would say comes to mind is spousal support or child support after a divorce. That is ridiculously ungodly high. That is not fair. That is way beyond the amount that is needed to raise children, right? Like if you get a divorce and she gets full custody and you made all the money, well, now she gets like, I don't know, let's say you're making $200,000 a year or whatever. I'm not getting too deep in the weeds on money, but I've seen this happen to a few of my guy friends where they're paying and their kids are basically getting like in 3 to 4 times as much money as they need to live off of, and then mom just sits on her ass at home and doesn't even work, right? And it's like, no, you should pay enough to take care of your family, take care of your kids. That's definitely what you should do. You shouldn't overpay. Or like what happens in California, we could thank California and America for ruining all of the family law. And so now it's like, well, not now, it's been there for decades, but like, what's it called?
No fault divorce and a whole bunch of
no. What's spousal support after like they get acclimated to a certain living standard. You get divorced, and that's factored in the divorce. Oh, you got used to living. Say one spouse makes $10 million a year, the other one doesn't do anything. You get a divorce. Well, they're used to that living, so now guess what? You have to pay them to equate that for the rest of their life or until they get remarried.
Yeah,
it's so stupid. It's so predatory. It makes no effing sense. And yet here we are talking about how great the Western world is, how modern we are, and how progressive we are, and we have shit like this that's dragging everybody down.
It's just a tug of war of certain opinions and certain things, and it's not perfect. But I mean, once an idea is presented it to itself, and you can see its flaws, then it's up to the constituents to rally together to change that. Here
we are.
Yeah.
So here we are. We have this idea, and I would say there's a good chance that our writer has been exposed to this idea from someone else, which scares me that this has been kicking around for a while, that this could be a peek into our future where people actually start to do this. And we do see, small spoiler, that Adele is not the only one. And when they put the app out, he's not the only one using it. There are some people that are sub 500 credit scores that they're testing out that within like the first week have already sold over half of the equity in themselves, basically enslaving themselves for the rest of their lives to this shit. And I'm like, that is terrifying.
And it's a single payment too. That's the thing that's scary. It's a single payment. Like it's not like a licensing deal, which is like, oh, for this period of time, I'm going to license out usage of who I am in regards to my data and invest in opportunities to people, and then it's got a time limit. And once it's done, that license is terminated. No more money comes in, no more money goes out, that type of thing. In this case here, it's basically saying you're going to get a ton of money up front for people that are invested in you if you have a bad credit score, if you have no credit score, and then now we have this ambiguous, undefined parameter, which is, well, what happens if you own less than 51% of yourself? What say does the people that own more than the percentage you sold happens? And also, one of the things I really appreciated about this script, and one of the things that was done to really kind of elevate the personal stakes for Adele, is Mike increases the stock amount and splits it, which means that
Yeah, that was so messed up.
that someone can end up basically having a hostile takeover of your essence, essentially,
Of yourself.
of
Yeah.
yourself. Because if it's like, oh yeah, 8%, you've got 100,000 shares, and then now it all gets split to it's like 500,000, and someone can then buy all those existing shares without the knowledge of the owner, just like in a hostile takeover where, if that company's like, oh yeah, we're really ambitious, we're going to split and we're going to double up our shares and everything, and as soon as it's launched with high frequency trading, which I think has been regulated to be more balanced these days, correct me if I'm wrong, out there in the chat or the comments, but someone can swoop in and buy all those outstanding shares before their ownership is attached to the people that it was intended to be when they did the split initially. And that's when you realize, oh, the person who went public, who split up all these shares, who thought they had ownership, this turns out, nope, they don't have ownership anymore. And now this new person has come and is gonna change the company to whatever they want it to be. And that's one of the things that really elaborates.
Like? Oh, sorry.
Yeah. Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, and what does that look like when, not the hostile takeover part, but the shareholders' influence, right?
Mm-hmm.
Where they're like, hey, we don't want you to do this thing. You got some pictures we're taking of you on that nude beach. And it looked like that girl is with you might have been underage, and it's going to take our stock. So now what we're going to do is this: we're going to send a bodyguard with you everywhere you go. But he's not really a bodyguard; he's a babysitter. And if you ever start anything questionable, he's going to be there to rein it in and protect our investment, right?
Yeah.
So, and you could play with that in so many terrifying ways. Like I think at its heart, this script it's a horror film, dude. This is a horror film.
Well, yeah, it's a psychological horror film of no. Now
I'll be dramatic, but you know what I'm saying. Like, it's scary, dude. This is scary because it's scary because it's so close to the truth, and you could see this happening.
You could see definitely an opportunity being placed to happen, and again, when you're dealing with a new investment, I mean, crypto investment is a big thing that's still kind of up in the air, and not many people are completely understanding of it. Same thing with NFTs. Again, another thing, not everybody completely knows about it. But in this case here, what's funny is that as the money comes in, that $2 million comes in for the company, they start investing it. They broker a deal to increase distribution, and then of course Mike networks him with other guys, one in pharmaceuticals to sell some drugs using their pill process. And Mike is saying, listen, I want you to use China as the factories in China to make your product. And Adele's like, well, China kind of, doesn't really live up to the quality of standards that we would need, but there's this place in Taiwan that looks really lucrative. And Mike's like, yeah, sure, go entertain them. But really, I want you to make sure that you check out China because if they can make a better deal, that would be better for your company. And this is where we get our first conflict, because this is also where Hamilton kind of steps in a little bit, because he's they're on a conference call, and it's between Mike and Adele, and Hamilton's there as an observer, but Mike is bringing up these suggestions that Hamilton's like, oh wait, these are actually some really good ideas, so let's entertain this. And Adele gets really irritated by that, because he's basically saying, like, dude, we cannot sell out this distribution, this manufacturing to China, because frankly, in many cases, Chinese manufacturing kind of really does low quality stuff. They do it for the cheapest rate, and you get what you pay for, essentially. And Adele is like, if this product is going to sell, it needs to have the quality. We have to take the investment in there. Even if the deal is a little bit more expensive than the one in China, it will pay off in the long run. And he's approaching that very much on the quality of the product versus the expenses part, which, again, a CFO is supposed to be there to say, hey, this might be a bit expensive. Can you guarantee the return? Nobody can, but Adele's playing the odds. And what we find out is that they go to Taiwan, and they're flown there by Mike's jet, I think. They flew there commercially after Mike has been flying Adele to meet all these other peoples, and he ends up getting him like a really expensive watch as a gift. And
Yeah, gives it to him on the private plane, like, dazzles him with all of
the luxury.
And how much was the watch? It was $100,000 watch. If I remember right.
$100,000
It was a
watch.
very expensive watch, yeah. Which is also a thing on isn't it Mark Cuban? He collects watches from Shark Tank.
Probably.
Yeah, it's his thing. Like anytime there's a big event, he buys a watch. But he does it like I saw him do a podcast, and he says he does it kind of as an investment. He goes those watches are worth as much now or more than they were the day I bought them, because he's buying these really high end watches, right? And I'm just like, that's interesting. And watches just mean a lot to him, and that's his thing. And if you can afford it, it's no different than someone who loves comics and they buy their favorite comics and they invest. They pay a lot for them and they invest them. Yeah, and so I'm fine with that. If you can afford $100,000 watch instead of $100 collectible, I don't know,
car
or something.
Then, yeah,
whatever. It's whatever. Or I've been looking at all the retro gaming stuff lately. It's nuts. I was going through some of my old Game Boy collection and stuff, and I'm like, holy crap, dude! Some of my old games are worth hundreds of dollars now, and they've just been sitting in a box for 25 years. So it's funny how that. So if that's what he's into, that's fine. I'm not going to judge it, because the only thing where I'm going to really start passing judgment is people that overspend what they can't afford, right? Then I'm like, yeah, you're being stupid, especially if people are depending on you. Then I'm really going to come down and be like, yeah, you're being an idiot, right? And so for this, I'm just like, it was just a dazzle thing, right? And it's also I think that instead of getting him something else, he got a watch, which is kind of like, it's sort of a bit of a analogy for handcuffs, right? Like, put this on your wrists. I kind of own you now, right? Like it's it's kind of a leash. And so I saw that symbolism there. And yeah, so in the end, like, let's follow that thread. So what happens between China and Taiwan? How does that end up? Where does that result? Where's the resolution on that? Do you remember?
Well, Adele has a little bit of an ego because he's very impressed with the Taiwanese manufacturing structure and what they can do for him. And they end up wanting, I think, they end up wanting like $2.5 million up front for the deal, and then they can do a delivery within a pretty quick time. And
yeah, only like 3 or 4 months, I think. It's pretty quick, yeah.
It's 3 or 4 months. And Adele, and again, like, that's more than what Mike paid in the investment for Adele, and the company just doesn't have the liquidity to make that deal.
Pause. Yep. Before you say more, at this point, did you figure out what Adele was going to do?
Yes.
Because I did not. And then once he did it, I thought, I should have seen that coming. I should have seen that, right?
So,
but I didn't think about it yet, but keep going.
Well, I figured out what he was going to do as soon as they made that deal, because Hamilton brings up, well, we then have to get out a loan in order to do that. And the loan and the interest rate alone is going to really eat into our possible revenue stream, to the point where we might not even be making profit. We might not even break even. We might be losing money with every transaction. And Adele says, I will front the cash. And how he does that
I think the first thing he said was, yeah, don't worry about it. I got it.
Don't worry about it. I've got it. Yeah, based on.
Yeah. And I'm like, wait, where's this money coming from?
And Hamilton's like, how do you get it? Like, no, don't worry. I got it. I'll front it myself. And so what Adele does is he takes a look at his valuation on the app, because there's this app that allows you to control and buy and sell your part of yourself. And he ends up listing, I think it's 12 additional %, because that equals the 2.5 that he needs. And as soon as he lists it, he gets hundreds of people buying up that transaction in order to get that. And he ends up getting the money.
He's seeing 10,000, 12,000, 15,000, 20,000 just come rolling in.
And a couple of $100, coming in as well, like any little bit.
Within minutes. Yeah, within minutes. And it's like, well, he got the money, that's for sure.
So he got the money. He closes the deal, and then Mike calls him, and he just gives him the riot act, because Mike has initially made a promise, a backdoor promise with China, that they would get the deal for this new method of producing drugs, and Adele didn't do that, didn't do what he wanted. And that's when Mike's
and pause, because a part of this was Adele, and he even says it to, I think he said it to what's his face, the CFO guy. Mm-hmm. He said, no, it's more than just the location. It's letting Mike know that he doesn't run things. I run things. This is my company. Mm-hmm. So that was like I'd say that's about 50-50. That might have been half the reason he did not want to do it in China. And plus, he really liked the Taiwanese people. When we see the meeting and stuff, he really was impressed with them, and he liked it. And so, but yeah, pissed off Mike. The other thing I remember happening, I'm not sure where this happened in the script, but when Mike, I think it was earlier, Mike, remember they were at the strip club, and
Right.
Mike, like, because we're seeing this like power play between these two people,
Yep.
right? Like Adele's submissive because this is the man with all the money, right?
Yep.
But he's also questioning his ethics, and he's also questioning his own, like, what the hell am I doing? I'm going to sell part of myself, but it's all worth it because he's looking at the big picture. I'm going to change the world. I'm going to have this drug, and I'm going to do whatever it takes to get there, short of selling my soul to the devil, which I don't think he would do. But we're seeing him slowly get closer to that with Mike. And one of those scenes that I remember being in my head was like when they went to the strip club and Mike was like talking to him about, you need to have a release. You can't be so pent up all the time. And then he's like, pick a girl. And there's like three girls. And then Adele's like, no, what's his girlfriend's name? She's
Is
like,
Cecilia his fiance? Yeah, he's not doing it.
Yeah. Sorry, fiance. She would kill me. I don't want to do that. And then they talk for a second more, and then Mike just looks him hard in the eyes, and he's like, "Pick one. I told you to pick one. You need to release." And then he hesitantly does and accepts a lap dance. And you see there, it's like it kind of reminded me of what was that '90s movie with Keanu Reeves and the Devil's being played by Al Pacino.
Oh, The
Do you
Devil's
remember
Advocate.
that one?
Yeah, The Devil's
The
Advocate.
Devil's that dude. That scared. I watched that when I was like 13. Scared the crap out of me as a kid. I was like,
That's not an
this
appropriate
is-
movie for a 13-year-old to watch.
I'm like, dude, yeah, it scarred me, right? Like, it scarred me to such a degree that when The Matrix came out later, when I was older, and it was like, what, 1999 when the first one came out?
Yep.
I was like, no, 97 maybe. I don't know. It was
No,
somewhere around
99 was the
And
first
I-
one The Matrix came out, yeah.
Okay, 99. And I just remember being like, oh, this is Keanu, this is that guy, right? So it went from like Ted, Theodore Logan, to like this dude being told to bang this chick on the desk right in front of the devil who's a lawyer, and then it goes to Neo in the Matrix. Dude, I was so confused on who Keanu Reeves was growing up. Anyway, so this reminded me of that though. Like you're seeing these little peaks of darkness from Mike, and you're just like, you want to hope he's a nice guy, but you know he's not. But you hope he's then you flip and you're like, well, I just hope he's not completely psycho evil either. And that's good because it keeps you guessing, right? Like what's next? What's the next level of debauchery that he's gonna get our protagonist Adele to do, you know? And so I think that was the pacing with that was done well. I just think that there was a lot of fluff kind of in this area of the script that I'm like, yeah, let's keep moving. You know, it was a little slow, but that's easy enough to cut that out in one more rewrite, right? Get this down
Yeah.
to maybe 95 or 100 pages.
Because this thing, it took about 64 pages or so before you got to a real juicy conflict.
Right. Yep.
But yeah, like this goes into, Mike gets super upset for him on that. However, because of that Python Pit show, and because of this new product that Adele has been adopted, that is Adele is launching, he's getting a lot of press because there's also this one point where when Mike does a press conference and introduces Adele essentially as his guinea pig for this new product, for this new app that he's launching, and I can't remember what the name of the app was. But it's
Oh yeah, I forgot about this. You're right. I don't remember the name either.
I can't
But
remember
I
the
know
name.
where
It
you're going.
wasn't a catchy name, so I'm sorry. Maybe they'll change that in the revision.
Yeah.
But Adele essentially feels like he's put on the public platform of like, hey, I already said we did the thing on the Python Pit. Now you're doing this big part to launch a new app where people can sign up and sell parts of their equity to strangers. And you've listed myself as part of that. But, of course, Mike says, yeah, but you have control over how much you sell and how much you list.
But he didn't give him the heads up. He just ambushed him on this live show.
it. And that kind of
Yeah,
caused a rift. And then later on, Mike tells him, like, hey, you backstabbed me on China. And that's essentially Adele getting a little bit of revenge back on Mike for basically ambushing him with the app, and also kind of telling him that the company, you own a stake in me, you don't own a stake in the company. So the company's going to do what it does. And then this spirals into some more attention where an old girlfriend of Adele's named Mindy is working for a prestigious newspaper or magazine, I think, and is interviewing Mike and Adele about this new app and, of course, about their stuff. And Mindy is really kind of she's fishing around, and she ends up getting a copy of the contract, and she starts like quoting.
They have history. They allude to that. We know that these two have a romantic history to some degree. She's not just some random reporter. But yeah, she gets her hands on the contract and it scares the shit out of her. She's like, did you read all this? And and he didn't even Adele didn't really fully read it all, right? He
No,
kind of
he
like
trusted
knew
his lawyer
Wendy
Jen,
or
and
whatever.
Jen said maybe you shouldn't sign this, but he's like, no, we need the money, I'll sign it. And she's like, there are some things that are good, there's some things questionable, some things I can't understand, and so we don't know the details of it until Mindy shows up. Again, this is about an hour into the story. And I'm going to quote this one here because I think it's kind of pretty interesting. A direct quote here is, "The founder agrees that they shall not undertake any action that may be deemed detrimental to the financial interests of the company or its shareholders." And later says, "Shareholders have the right to petition for restraining orders and assign a supervising board representative to enjoin the founder from such action." So this is your babysitter clause. And of course, Adele gets kind of really upset about this, and then the interesting part is, like, Adele says, yeah, but I've got the supermajority vote, so I own 80% of my equity, and I'm not the supermajority. And Minnie says, well, a few days ago you owned 92%. Just reminding him, like,
Zap.
You sold 12, and it just kind of needling at her. And Adele gets
Anthro, that's the name of the
Anthro,
app.
that's right, Anthro. And so that's why, and so this interview doesn't really go too well. It seems almost like it's kind of a partial hit piece, and we kind of get the implication that Mindy has been trying to take down a guy like Mike for a really long time because she has seen situations where the means by which he gets his wealth have been highly questionable and highly possibly unethical. And this new app allowing people to sell parts of themselves to strangers kind of goes in that case. And there's also room about how state attorneys and federal attorneys and federal judges and courts are asking to see more details on this, and they want to give it some extreme scrutiny because it might infringe on the very liberties within the country and possibly other parts of the world. So
human rights.
Yeah, like, it's like, are we, like, again, a lot of corporations treat humanity as a commodity. I would say we're far more important than that. But that is something that is out there, and it is something that it can be very dangerous if not protected. And we have to...
Well, right down to the word they give us that we so mindlessly repeat, the word consumers, not customers. Right? Consumers. You know what consumers are? Cows and goats. They're consumers.
They'll take whatever is presented before them without the scrutiny of whether or not they need it. Yeah.
They just eat it. They just eat it. They just consume it. And that's what we are to them. We're consumers. And they've even got us calling ourselves that now. And it pisses me off. I'm like, no, we are customers. At the very least, we are customers. At the very most, we are guests. And even more, maybe even friends, and maybe even devotees, if you look at the passion and love people have for certain IPs.
Sure.
But one thing we are not is just consumers. And that whole point of view from the pigs at the top of some of the corporate ladder, not all companies are this way.
Sure.
That's our problem. That's right there. Like, no, not only do they call us that, they get us to call ourselves that. And it just becomes part of our everyday language, and we don't even question it. And it's like, no, we're not. It's anyway. So and so Mindy basically, I checked it. She works for Forbes magazine. She is like, hey, let's take this guy down together. And Adele was just like, dude, this is my life. And he just walks out. He's not going to touch this, right? Because think about all the stuff he has on his plate. I don't blame him for walking out at this point. Like, okay, good. Let's move on to the next plot point. What's going to happen next? And we see that Mindy's a good person. Yeah, she's going to make a name for herself, but you can tell she's actually like emotionally and sincerely invested in this and stopping it. Like, this is bad news, and she doesn't want to see it happen. So I like Mindy. I thought she was a good character.
Yep.
That's what this whole script in general. I don't feel like we're drowning in characters that we don't know or that we can't remember. There's so many people moving around. It's just the right size of a cast.
It's about like 4 characters ish. Yeah.
Yeah. And then I'd say like maybe that same amount of supporting that come and go like here and there. It's like it's fine. Like this is a good script. It's not overly complicated. So let's see. We're on page what? We're 68,
68 or something. Mike calls him up again. Basically, he's telling him like, you do what I tell you to do. But when Adele kind of pushes back a little bit, he says, "Then fine. If you're going to reject my guidance, I have to offer that I have to offer just because I'm the one offering it. Then you're rebelling ad hominem. So the only thing I can do is just go hands off, and you're on your own." And so he's essentially and I like the passive aggressive subtext here. He's essentially saying, I'm going to give you free reign to do what you want, and it's going to bite you so hard as a result of it that you're going to be coming back to me. And
yeah, because he's mad that he sold that 12%, right?
Yep.
Like
he's mad he sold the 12%. He's mad that he used that 12% to buy the contract in Thailand instead of China.
Yep. So he's mad at him for several reasons.
Yeah, he's mad at him for several reasons.
And Adele almost gives him another reason, because remember, Adele thought he was there. He was mad because about the Forbes interview.
Right. And he didn't care.
And Mike's like, what? Yeah, Mike didn't even know what happened. He's like, who are you talking about? And he's like, oh, I thought that's why you were here. And he's like, no, I'm here about you selling your 12%, right? And it was just like, oh shit, he almost made it worse. So that was a funny scene. That was a great scene. I like that. Because it shows that how focused Mike is, that it doesn't even perk his ears up because he's so mad about the 12%. He's like, I don't give a shit about some interview. Like, I care about this 12%. Now you've watered down my investment in you, right, by doing this. Mm-hmm. And plus, on top of that, they haven't even figured out, on the back end, the Mike's team behind this app and all this financial BS, they haven't got it all figured out either. This is unknown territory.
You're right.
And so for him to throw suddenly just boom, here's 12% more of myself out there. They weren't prepared for that. So yeah, Mike's pissed, and Mike's basically like, you know what? I'll just give you enough rope, and you're going to hang yourself with it, and I won't be here to save you when you don't, kid, because you're not listening to me. It's the I'm the mentor, and you're being an ignorant little butthead, a Padawan, and not listening.
But here's the fun part, like that type of relationship is the most interesting. Like, have you seen the it's the movie with J.K. Simmons. It's Whiplash, about drumming and teaching.
Oh, with the drumming. I saw the trailers. I never saw the film, though.
So that's a great movie because you have a mentor and you have a student, and they're butting heads because both of them want the same goal. They want that guy to be the best that he can be. But, I mean, that student's going to push back because they got to this point before the mentor got into on themselves or with other assistants, and they have different philosophy for it. And now this mentor is coming in saying, listen, man, what you've learned is just the tip of the iceberg. And I'm going to teach you a whole bunch of other stuff, and you might not like it, but it's going to make you the best you possibly can. But you have that friction because the young guy is going to say, well, I think I know better. And it is up to the mentor to say, no, I'm going to make sure that if you think you know better, I'm going to make you drive that point to its final conclusion, which is where you're going to fail. And then I'm going to pick you back up. You're not going to like how I pick you back up, but I'm going to do it. And I'm going to get you to where you're supposed to be. And you're going to learn that maybe I actually know something about what I'm doing. And this is a boilerplate type of framework when it comes to mentor and apprentice. We saw that in Empire Strikes Back with Yoda, because what does Yoda?
You tear them down and you build them back. You reform them in your image, basically, right?
Not necessarily tear them. You let the student kind of fail, and then you show them from that failure how they failed, why they failed, and why the lesson that was presented before that failure is valuable. So my favorite scene of that is, of course, Luke trying to raise the X-wing out of the swamp, right? Because Yoda's saying, you can do it. Like, he's like, that's encouraging. Like, you can do it. But Luke is like, I can't get off the fact that this is a heavy object. He's like, no, it's not. Like, with the way of the Force, it's not a heavy object. And Luke tries and he fails, and then he scoffs at Yoda and says, you ask for the impossible. And what does Yoda do? He doesn't berate him or anything. He just lifts it up and does it himself. And he's like, I don't believe. He's like, yeah, that's why you failed. Like, yeah, I'm telling you, all you had to do is believe. And you scoffed at me is the subtext.
So many good moments. When I was a kid watching Star Wars, I had no idea how many like adult lessons were really there for me, and that's what makes it a good show. Is it's not timeless, it's ageless, meaning like almost any age can get something from that show that's positive, or from those films, the original films.
And that's what's really fun with the dynamic, because this Mike guy, he's basically saying like, dude, he's basically saying, yes, I'm controlling you up to 8%. But that doesn't mean that you get to relinquish that control to someone else or other people as well. And he's basically saying, I'm investing in you to do what you should be doing to make your company successful, and I'm giving you all the advice you need that no one else will give you in order to facilitate that. And instead of taking my advice and following it to learn and be better, you're literally pushing back against me, doing your own thing, and now I'm not going to help you anymore because you have to fail in order for me to be able to step in and help you again. And
I would say, and on top of all of that, Mike's perspective would also be, and you came to me to begin with.
Yes.
You came to me to do this, and now you're not letting me do it. But it's not that simple, because see, that's the thing. He's oversimplifying. He's kind of straw manning the argument, right? Because we know that, we've seen throughout this story, even at this point, we've seen several times that Mike is trying to control more than just being this 8% investor in this person, right?
Right.
Like that lap dance example I gave you, like the watch, like all these different things. We're like, no, there's more here. It's more than just this, and we know that,
Yeah.
and Adele suspects that. But Mike's gonna hide behind that, and be like, "Well, hey, I was trying to help you, right?"
Yeah,
and
he's trying to make it like an altruistic thing, so he's playing both angles
Yes.
at the same time.
Yes, exactly, and that's what makes it interesting, right? It's more than just white hat, black hat, right? Like we've got these shades of gray, or at least these hints of darker blackness here, right? And we're like, well, how dark is it going to get? Like, where's it going? Like, let's watch more, and that keeps you hooked.
And that's also that's one part of its strength, but it's also a little bit part of its weakness, because as we're learning this as we go, the stakes are being developed as we go, as opposed to being presented. And it's a little bit harder because once we get to a certain point, we're kind of muddied about the stakes at hand, because there's still a little bit of extra control. Like, there's no situation that we get to where Adele is 100% no longer in control of his actions. And that it seems like what is being presented as when you're selling equity of yourself. But we don't really get enough in there to do that, because what we end up happening is that while Adele is making these deals and getting his company, expanding his company, his fiancee, Cecilia, is saying, hey, can I have a look at that contract? Because I'm going to be marrying you. And if someone else is owning you, like an actual percentage of you, I need to know how that works out when it comes to our marriage. And also when it comes to...
Weird, but very valid point of view.
Weird, but very valid point of view.
Yeah.
And Adele keeps forgetting to tell his lawyer to send the contract to her, to the point where shortly after Mike reads Adele the Riot Act, he goes home, and Mindy Fang, the Forbes reporter, is there with the contract, showing it to Jen, and Jen is freaked out, to the point where she literally breaks off their engagement, throwing the engagement ring at Adele and walking out.
And Adele's like, "What the hell are you doing here?" Right? Like, she's like, you wouldn't take my calls, so I had to go to her first. I had to go to her to get to you.
And then on top of that, you find, and then she's like, "And you didn't even share the contract with her?" And he's just like, "I forgot." So yeah, it's crazy here, but yeah, this is like when, and this was a scene that was a lot longer than it had to be. I think it was like a 7-page scene, but it's essentially the breakup, and.
Oh yeah, you're right. This is long. Holy cow.
Yeah, and then we find out that like there's this other character named Wallace, who I can't remember what exactly he is, but he might be an investor, or it might be something with. He's on the board of like several pharmaceutical companies, which is a weird conflict of interest, but somehow he's able to get away with it.
Oh yeah.
And,
he's the guy. He's the guy that's trying to manipulate. He's the guy that's like the entryway into the world of medicine.
Right.
And he sits on all these different boards that's going to help make that happen. So he's not Pfizer direct, but he's Pfizer adjacent to like make that possible.
Yeah, he's Pfizer, Johnson & Johnson, Moderna. He's all of them. Like he's essentially that guy. And eventually he like somehow they managed to pull off this deal where Wallace agrees and is buying the product that Adele is selling. But it also leads to Hamilton deciding to resign once the deal is through, because he just doesn't like how the company
They have a party. They do the whole across the room, make eye contact, and then Hamilton does the little side nod thing, and then they go and meet alone. And then we see, pause that because we kind of glossed over this earlier, but we had another scene with these two together, Hamilton and Adele, where Hamilton basically says, "Look, every time I see you, you are more and more like Mike." Right?
Yeah.
So this is the descent into darkness of our protagonist, and now it's being directly addressed by one of his coworkers / friends, saying, "Look, you're being like the dude that you hate. What are you doing?" Right?
Yeah.
And now he's lost his fiance, because the same thing, like he's becoming more and more like Mike. He's like more cutthroat. Like, I'm going to do whatever it takes to make my business succeed, even if it costs me my fiance. And so yeah, and now we're at this point where Hamilton basically is like, here's size of a piece of paper and says, "Here's my resignation." Right? I'm out as soon as the deal's done or whatever.
And then you have to find a new CFO. And then on top of that, this is where we find, through like an MSNBC segment, that Adele has this new deal as a result of this Kinetic Enterprises. And then as he's looking on the television and he mutes it, he gets an alert from his app saying that his valuation has changed, and his valuation is now set at like $504 million, which is huge. But what ends up happening is that he only owns 13% of his own stock now.
Yep. And it
And
blows his mind. He's like, "What?"
and he
He went
calls his
from
lawyer.
80% to this. Yeah.
Yeah, he calls his lawyer, and then she's freaking out, and she doesn't understand. And then Mike basically, he manages to get a hold of Mike, and he says, "Okay, here's the deal. A few hours ago, I issued a $12 million new shares in your stock. I had my coalition of cyber monkeys buy them all up, my holding companies. That pumped up your valuation by a lot, and then I left. I don't know, maybe another 4 or 5% up for grabs. And I listed it, and I put it on the segment on MSNBC, and pumped you up a bit more. And now you are halfway to the big B, and I own most of who you are."
Oh, so scary.
And then here's the funny part: he's like, $438 million is what you'll need to buy yourself back, and it's like, good luck.
And he has like what at this point he has what like 9 months to do it.
Yeah, he
It's
has like 9 months to do it, so it's not happening.
Yeah,
and this
it's
is
so scary, man.
And this is like the scary part. Like here's the thing. So now Mike has the majority ownership of him, but we do get a time jump here to about, I think, 6 or 7 months later. So it's like right up to the edge where he can't buy back anymore. And
hold on. I'm not sure what part you're going to get to before we do the time jump.
Mm-hmm.
In the script, this is the first time I've seen this in probably any of the scripts I've read. We jump to like a 16 or 18 font, and we see Mike yell, "This isn't about the money."
Yeah.
Super huge on the page.
Yep.
And then let me read this because this cuts to the heart of Mike's motive and his character. He says this: "How many times do I have to say that to you until you believe it? Your problem, Adele, lies in your definition of security. I get it. My dad was like that. Most immigrants are. You think your security lies in money, having enough of it. I'm after legacy. Believe it or not, I think Anthro is going to make the world a better place. That's what this is all about. It may take decades for that to become undeniably true, but I fully intend on getting us there. You, my friend, are lucky enough to be the first man on the moon, but that's not the goal. It never is, and it never will be. The goal is to terraform the observable universe." And so right there we see like, yeah, he has plenty of money. He doesn't need money. This is about way bigger than that. But even then we question, he says it's about making the world better through this drug and stuff, right? And I'm like, I still don't believe that, Mikey, but I do believe the rest of that. But that's a very important thing. That's where we really see it, the mask finally come off of Mike, most of the mask. And we're like, okay, this is why he's doing this. This is why he's pushing for all of this. But we know that money is also a core part of it, because otherwise, why did he start the whole app, right? Why didn't he just invest in one person and call it good? He's doing a lot more than that. So no, we know, Mike, this isn't just about changing the world for the better for drugs. Like, this is about creating a whole new way of trading revenue amongst the value of human beings. And it's terrifying. So anyway, keep going. What were you going to say next?
So next part is that we do a little bit of a time jump. Adele's got a beard now.
Oh yeah, the beard.
And he's got that babysitter that's just always with him to make sure that whatever choice Adele makes, it's within the lines of what Mike needs. And they're in a bigger office for the company that Adele runs. Like, say, they upgraded their offices. There's a bit more staff, and but Adele's still in his apartment. But there's a whole lot of like empty space there from what Cecilia took after she left. And then we find out that like Mindy is in the living room, and she's on a computer. And we learn that for the last few months, since Adele lost majority ownership of himself on the app, he's been secretly working with Mindy to gather as much dirt as possible on Mike and this Anthro app to release it publicly and to the proper authorities to basically shut the whole thing down.
Yeah, and I think that's probably about where we should leave it, script.
Yeah, because right now they're working really together, but the one thing that they need, that Adele wants first, before they have, because they have enough to definitely do it, but Adele wants something that makes it ironclad. He basically wants to get Mike to kind of confess that he opened up the shares and managed to get ownership of Adele. He wants those in words, and that's where we're going to cut off the part here, because how they play that out, and I think the direction it goes to, very fascinating. I think that's one of the reasons why this got within the top 5 of the blacklist.
Pretty good. A lot of these scripts fall apart in the third act, or at least maybe not fall completely on their face, but stumble across the finish line. And this one was great. I like this through and through. I just think that it could have been, we need to shave about 20 pages off the script, and keep it moving a little bit. But you cast the right people in this, it's going to be awesome. You know who I see as the Mike is he's no longer with us. Oh my gosh, I hate when I do this, especially on a show. Who was the actor from Hoosiers? The coach guy that was in tons of movies in like the 70s.
Hugh Jackman.
80s
Oh, no,
and
sorry.
90s.
God, what am I saying? Gene Hackman.
Gene Hackman. Yes. You know how gruff he could be and how like pissed off, but yet he could still be kind of the good guy, you know?
Yeah.
I can see Gene Hackman being the Mike, right? I can totally see that. Like this unlikable rich asshole, but you still kind of
sport
like
a
him.
little bit of a charm, yeah.
Yeah. That's what you would need. And for Adele, I mean, that no big deal actually. It's kind of funny. Like Adele's our protagonist, but he's kind of overshadowed by Mike because Mike is larger than life.
He's
you
a
know,
very
not every
large
scene
than
he's
life
in.
character, yeah.
So, but yeah, if I haven't given it away, I'm gonna vote on it right now. Yeah, I would definitely, I would greenlight this. I didn't think it was top 5, but I'm excited to see the rest of the scripts from last year's Blacklist. So yeah, this is a good script. I would greenlight it. If it's in production like what you suspect, then that's even better. I'm curious. I will definitely see it when it comes out.
Yeah.
What about you?
It's in development at the moment, so maybe they'll get lucky and get a proper production going on it. But I'm with you. I'm giving this a green light because characterization is great, voices are distinct. Its weakest point is really just proper definition of the stakes. But I think part of the strength of that gimmick is the fact that we know that it's bad, but we don't know how bad it can get. And you're gonna need a really good director to kind of keep people on the edge of their seats for that to land. On the script wise, it's a little weak, but I think that is a lot easier to solve than compared to some other stories that we've given a pass to.
You could do it right. If you did it right, it's the monster you don't know that can be the most terrifying, and that's what this is. If you don't define the stakes, you just scratch, you say, you know, there's a line in there, something about like, it's just the tip of the iceberg. I just scratched the surface of what we could do with humanity in the future. Something like that the stakes are clearly, how do I say this? Like from a bird's eye view,
defined.
They're clearly defined. But when you get up close, we don't need to have all those details. We just need to go look at our world now, like what we've discussed. Look at the world now. Look at how they share all of our data. What is that worth, and what could that do? And then how could that completely backfire and go upside down for humanity? And if you could somehow portray that very simply for the audience, just enough for them to go, holy crap, like just a peek into that darkness of that closet. You don't know what the monster is in there. You just know it's there. Then yes, that's truly terrifying to be like, yeah, if this was a future. It's kind of like when you watch some of the Black Mirror episodes and you end the episode and you're like, thank God that episode's over. Not because it was bad, but because it was so terrifying to think that if this was a future, if this was the world I lived in, I would not want to be in that world. And that's kind of what you got to do with this, right? You got to just be like, please don't ever let this become a reality, right? Don't let this ever happen. And so green light, awesome script. I liked it. I liked it a lot.
I enjoyed most of the read. Again, it has a part that are a few slow, a couple of scenes that are not really needed, a couple of scenes that are a little bit too long than you'd expect. But overall, I was actually like really enjoyed like the concept of the plot. The characters themselves were pretty solid, and yeah, so I was pleasantly surprised. So we're just going to jump over quickly to the Patreon here, because if you are a Patreon member for the show or for myself, you get to vote on the scripts that we review here. And so over on the Patreons, they had a very different take. Now, there aren't any comments yet, but we actually have, of the people that voted, 100% voted to pass on this script. There was something, I guess, about it that they didn't quite get. Maybe it has to do with the stakes. Who knows? Again, if you guys are voting up on the Patreon side and for the scripts or against the scripts, please give a little comment as to what was the method behind your vote, so we can discuss on the show. We can name you if you want, or if you don't want it to be named, don't worry about it. Just let us know, because we'd like to expand on the conversation. Because if there is something that you didn't like about the script that helped determine that vote, I think that'll give us some more insight into to the conversation and the script itself. But over on the live chat, we have 100% of the people who voted to greenlight it. So we got a split over here, which is awesome. I mean, it definitely does show the variety of the taste among the people that have either read the script or are listening to us talking about the script and our thoughts about it. So I really appreciate that. I think it's absolutely fantastic that we have this type of thing, and I'd like to have the conversation keep going. So whether it's on the Patreon or on the YouTube side of things, leave a comment about your thoughts on the conversation, or if you got to read the script itself. If you haven't read the script and you want to read it based off our conversation, you can reach out to me either through my Patreon or through X. My DMs are open. I'll be happy to connect you with the script. As always, the whole idea is not to make it go viral to compromise the opportunities of the script, but just really share it out, share your thoughts, and have some fun, and also take it as like a learning example. What can you take from the script that you can do to improve your own writing? What can you find in the script that you can see as a flaw that you can maybe point out in your own writing to avoid? Those are the types of things and values that we like to promote with this show and with this conversation. So I really had a great time talking about this screenplay. It would have been just as fun if we did it last week, but again, production got in the way as it tends to be sometimes. But I'm glad to do it today. Any final thoughts, TJ, before we call it a night?
No, I'm good. Great script. Look forward to watching it. Hopefully it's produced well.
I hope that from development it gets into production and gets released. It'd be great to kind of do a script-to-screen comparison, because we already have one definitely in the pipeline that we're going to be doing with Madden, this Thanksgiving.
I'm so excited for that one, dude. I'm so excited.
That's going to be a great show, I hope. Whether the movie's great or bad,
even if it's terrible.
Yeah, even if it's terrible, it's still going to be great.
It's going to be it's going to be fun to cover it, even if it's terrible, because it's going to be Nicolas Cage. I mean, the cast, is great, and then the fact that we like the original script. I'm excited, no matter how well it does. I want the movie to be good, though.
Me too.
I hope it is. So.
I hope it is as well. With that being said, on the live side of things, I want to thank Darren M. and Lord Toth for modding the live chat. Thank you so much. Always appreciated. And for everyone out there listening, please, thank you so much for hanging out with us for this episode. And we'll see you guys next time with another great script, hopefully. It's another great script, but at least it's another script that we will determine based on our own opinions if it is worth a green light or a pass. And we're going to keep this going as much as we can. So with that being said, have a wonderful weekend. And remember, guys, when it comes to great story, it all starts with the script.